billionaire's deaf daughter was ignored until a janitor spoke to her through sign language. There are moments in life when a single gesture changes everything, when one person sees what others have overlooked, when kindness speaks louder than words ever could. This is a story about such a moment. Marcus Chen had worked as a janitor at the Riverside Grand Hotel for nearly 30 years. At 57, he moved through the elegant hallways with the quiet confidence of someone who knew every corner, every shadow, every story those walls could tell. His salt and pepper hair was always neatly trimmed, and though his blue work uniform was simple, he wore it with dignity. Marcus had kind eyes, the sort that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, eyes that had seen hardship and joy in equal measure. He had learned sign language decades ago, back when his younger sister was born deaf. Those were different times, when not many people understood or accommodated differences. But Marcus had loved his sister fiercely, and learning to sign had been his way of making sure she never felt alone in the world. Even after she passed away from cancer 10 years ago, he continued to use sign language whenever he could. It kept her memory alive, and occasionally, it allowed him to connect with someone who needed that connection. The hotel was hosting a charity gala that evening, one of those elegant affairs where crystal chandeliers cast warm light over silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. Marcus had worked dozens of these events over the years. He knew the rhythm, the laughter that grew louder as the evening progressed, the clinking of champagne glasses, the way people clustered in groups, their conversations flowing easily. But that night, as Marcus moved quietly along the edges of the ballroom collecting abandoned glasses and straightening chairs, something caught his attention. A young woman stood near the far wall alone. Her name was Emma, though Marcus didn't know that yet. She was 17, with delicate features and dark hair swept up in an elegant style. She wore a navy blue dress that suited her perfectly, and at first glance she looked like she belonged in that glittering room. But Marcus noticed what others didn't. He saw how she stood slightly apart, her hands clasped in front of her. He saw the way her eyes moved across the crowd, not with boredom or disinterest, but with a kind of quiet resignation. She was present but not included, there but not seen. Marcus recognized that look. He had seen it on his sister's face more times than he cared to remember. Near Emma stood a woman in her late 40s, elegant in a black dress, her dark hair falling in waves past her shoulders. She was speaking animatedly with a small group of donors, her face bright with the practiced warmth of someone accustomed to hosting these events. Every so often she would glance over at Emma, brief, checking glances that seemed more dutiful than connected. This was Catherine Thornton, one of the wealthiest women in the state. She had built her late husband's modest real estate business into an empire after his death 15 years ago, and now the Thornton name was synonymous with philanthropy and influence. But wealth, Marcus had learned over the years, didn't always translate to happiness, and influence didn't always mean understanding. Marcus continued his work, but he kept the young woman in his peripheral vision. A waiter passed by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, offering them to nearby guests. When he reached Emma, he simply walked past without pausing, as if she weren't there. A few minutes later, a distinguished older couple approached Catherine, their faces full of praise for the evening. They spoke to her for several minutes, and though Emma stood right beside her mother, they never once looked at the girl, never acknowledged her presence. Emma's expression didn't change. She simply folded her hands a little tighter. Marcus set down the tray he was carrying and made a decision. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. When he was a few feet away, he moved into her line of sight and offered a gentle smile. Then, with deliberate care, he raised his hands and signed. "Hello, my name is Marcus." Emma's eyes widened. For a moment, she simply stared at him, as if she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. Then slowly her hands lifted. "You know sign language?" "I do," Marcus signed back. "I learned it a long time ago. For my sister. Emma's face transformed. It was like watching the sun break through clouds, a smile that started small and then spread, genuine and unguarded. She signed quickly now, the movements fluid and eager. No one here signs. I've been standing here for 2 hours and no one has said a word to me. Well, she paused and there was a flicker of something sad in her expression. Not a word I could understand. That must be lonely, Marcus signed. Emma nodded. You get used to it. That doesn't make it right, Marcus replied. Across the room, Catherine had noticed the interaction. Marcus saw her excuse herself from her conversation and begin moving toward them. Her expression uncertain, not angry, but confused, perhaps even concerned. Is everything all right? Catherine asked when she reached them, her eyes moving from Marcus to Emma. Marcus straightened, professional but not servile. Yes, ma'am. I was just introducing myself to your daughter. Catherine's brow furrowed slightly. I'm sorry, were you bothering her? Mom, Emma signed, though Catherine's attention was still on Marcus. Emma tried again, more insistent, until Catherine finally looked at her. What is it, sweetheart? Emma signed something, her movements quick and animated. Catherine watched, and Marcus could see she understood the signs. But there was a hesitation in her expression, a slight delay before she responded. That's nice, honey, Catherine said, patting Emma's arm. Then to Marcus, thank you. For being kind to her. That was thoughtful, but the words felt automatic, almost rehearsed. Marcus had heard that tone before, the tone of someone going through the motions without truly being present. Catherine returned to her guests and Emma's shoulders sagged slightly. She tries, Emma signed to Marcus. But she's always busy. Important meetings. Important events. Important people. She paused. I know I shouldn't complain. I have everything I need. A nice home. Good schools. She makes sure I have interpreters and everything. But, Marcus prompted gently. Emma's hands moved slowly now, carefully. But sometimes I wonder if she actually sees me. Or if I'm just another responsibility on her list, something to check off. Over the next hour, Marcus and Emma talked in the quiet language of signs, their conversation flowing easily. She told him about her love of painting, how she could lose herself for hours in the colors and textures, in the way light fell across a canvas. She told him about the art show her school was having next month, and how excited and nervous she was. She told him about feeling invisible, even in rooms full of people. Marcus told her about his sister, about the fierce, funny woman she had been. He told her about learning sign language at 17, struggling with it at first but determined to get it right. He told her that his sister used to say the world was quieter for her than for others, but that didn't mean she had less to say. She sounds amazing, Emma signed. She was, Marcus replied. And so are you. Emma smiled, but there was a question in her eyes. How do you know? You just met me. Because, Marcus signed, in the last hour, you've told me about your art, your dreams, your fears. You've shared yourself. That takes courage. Too many people go through life never doing that. They hide behind small talk and politeness and never let anyone really see them. He paused. You're not invisible, Emma. You're just surrounded by people who haven't learned how to look. Emma's eyes glistened and she blinked quickly. The gala was winding down when Catherine approached them again. This time she moved more slowly, and when she looked at Emma and Marcus signing, she actually stopped and watched for a moment. Marcus noticed her and nodded respectfully. Your daughter was telling me about her art show next month. She's very talented. Catherine's expression shifted. Something flickered there. A mix of surprise and something that might have been shame. She told you about that? She did, Marcus said simply. She's excited about it. Catherine looked at Emma, really looked at her, and for the first time that evening, Marcus saw genuine emotion in her face. I didn't realize. She stopped, seemed to gather herself. Emma, sweetheart, I didn't know you were so excited about the show. Emma signed something and Catherine watched, but Marcus could see the uncertainty there, the way Catherine's eyes lost focus. Slightly. The way she nodded but seemed unsure of what Emma had actually said. After a moment, Catherine turned to Marcus. What did she say? Marcus hesitated, not wanting to overstep, but Emma nodded at him encouragingly. She said she's told you about it 3 times. But you were always on a phone call or heading to a meeting. Catherine's face went pale. She looked at Emma, and for a long moment, mother and daughter simply stood there, the noise of the departing guests fading around them. Oh, Emma, Catherine whispered. I'm so sorry. Emma's hands moved tentatively. It's okay. You're busy. No, Catherine said, and this time she signed as she spoke. Her movements rusty but sincere. It's not okay. You're my daughter. Nothing is more important than you, nothing. She paused, and Marcus could see tears gathering in her eyes. When did I forget that? Marcus stepped back, giving them space. But Catherine reached out and touched his arm. Thank you, she said, and her voice was thick with emotion. Thank you for seeing her, for talking to her, for reminding me that I should be doing the same. She's always been there, ma'am, Marcus said gently, waiting to be heard. Catherine nodded, and when she looked at Emma again, something had changed in her expression. The polite distance was gone, replaced by something raw and real. Will you tell me about your paintings? Catherine signed to Emma. Will you tell me everything? Emma's smile was radiant. Marcus finished his work that evening and headed home to his small apartment across town. He didn't expect to hear from Emma or Catherine again. He had simply done what felt right, what his sister would have wanted him to do. But 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at the hotel addressed to him. Inside was a handwritten note from Catherine, thanking him for his kindness and his wisdom. She explained that she had hired a sign language tutor, not for Emma, but for herself, that she had cleared her schedule to attend Emma's art show, that she was learning slowly how to truly be present for her daughter. Tucked inside the letter was something else, a small photograph of a painting. It was abstract, full of deep blues and vibrant yellows, with streaks of light cutting through darkness. On the back, in careful handwriting, were the words, Breaking Through, by Emma Thornton. Thank you for seeing me. E. Marcus placed the photograph on his refrigerator, where it joined the pictures of his sister. And every time he looked at it, he was reminded that sometimes the smallest gestures, a conversation, a moment of genuine attention, a willingness to speak someone's language, could change everything. Because in the end, we all just want to be seen, to be heard, to know that we matter. And sometimes it takes someone who knows what it's like to be overlooked to remind us to look more carefully at those around us. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, I'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about the quiet moments that change lives. And please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about a time when someone saw you when you felt invisible, or when you made that difference for someone else. Your stories matter, just like Emma's did. Until next time, take care of each other.